Hey, it's Celia on the record at WNXP with Paris Paloma, who's stopping through Nashville on tour, a sold-out tour, I might add. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for playing songs off your forthcoming record out at the end of August. We've been playing some of these already, but it's so nice to hear them live and in person. How are you feeling about your record release? This will be your first full length after you first started releasing music, I think, in the before times, the pandemic times. How's it feeling now?
Yeah, it's feeling really exciting. I think I've waited a long time to get a larger body of work out in the form of an album. So I felt very impatient towards it.
Can you tell us, I know that you've been on the record about this, but tell us what inspired this record, Cacophony, because there's a lot of imagery. I know you're a fine art appreciator, so it's probably more just more a fully creative vision than just sonically.
Yeah, they're all, I mean, it's not so much a concept album, but they are all songs that have like similarities through the fact that they are created through a need for working through the feelings in my mind and the noise in my mind. Hence the name Cacophony. It's kind of a reference to that chaos that results in artistic creation as a way to move through it.
Has that always been the case for you? Is that music is your main channel for processing emotion?
I think any of my creative outlets always. I think music is a massive one because that deals with words, and that's why lyrics like come first for me in terms of songwriting, because that's music is the vehicle to get the words across. But also art, painting, drawing, all forms of like creative outlets.
Can you pinpoint when you started writing songs, or was it poetry that you only put to music later and then formed songs around them?
I mean, I tried my hand in poetry. I think I can remember writing songs since I was about 10, but not, they weren't any good, but that's also an immensely important part of the journey. You need to write terrible things in order to be able to make good things. And I think the first time I performed one of my own songs was when I was about 15, and just sort of kept writing. And throughout my discography, you can see that I'm still, you can see that, a few years ago, I was still sort of trying to find out what my style was and what I did want to be writing.
What was your sort of creative community like starting that young as a teenager? Did you have friends that also made music? Did you have creative parents, siblings?
None of my family are in music. It's sort of just, I think I was following a career in fine art for a long time. And I think the music was what I was doing as a hobby. It did seem, the idea of being able to write songs and do that for a living was immensely appealing, but I didn't think that I would get the chance to do that until the pandemic, when I sort of started thinking, okay, maybe this is something I can take into the light a little bit more and out of the shadows. But it's the songwriting part of it was always quite isolated and solitary throughout my teen years, but I liked that it kept it incredibly vulnerable, and it means that I have a foundation of writing songs as a complete safe space where it's only myself and my mind and my words that partake in it.
Think about, you said out of the shadows into the light. A lot of light shone on you in the last couple of years especially, and I wonder, as somebody who likes to connect through your music with fans, what it's been like, that specifically the journey of connecting with fans that are in the dozens to now millions. I mean, how do you remain connected to the fan base as it grows so exponentially?
I think it's very, especially with social media nowadays, it's very hard to be disconnected from them when you can see and hear the ways in which that your music resonates with them all the time. And I receive messages and comments and see videos of people listening to my music. It's you can tune into it in a way now that's really rewarding, especially with kind of when social media traction comes into it and things blowing up on social media. That was incredibly humbling to see the response that people had to songs like Labour. Time and time again. I think I'm just really grateful that I have a fan base who have made songs like that much bigger than me, and potentially much more important than they would have been if I'd just had the only say in what they meant.
So much so that you decided to weave them in when you re-released a video for Labour, right? Gave it a second wave and second oomph.
Yeah, and we had them submit all their fan vocals as well to essentially have a feature track that was with all the listeners singing on it.
Really special and really cool. The original video, though, it was like watching a mini movie. I had like bated breath. I'm like, what's going to happen at this dinner table? You have to watch it if you've not. Talk about the vision for that song, bringing that to life visually, because it has reverberated with so many people thematically, but really beautifully shot. And I wondered how much input you had in that.
I was doing the artistic direction for the music video. We were on like a small budget at the time, and I worked with Julia, who had been the producer for the Fruits music video, which was sort of my first proper music video, and Adam Othman, who directed. It was just a lot of kind of costuming and vision boarding, and I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan, and a lot of it was based off of that scene of Lord Denethor eating while all his soldiers go out and do the dirty work for him, and that was kind of what we based it off of, and Henry gave such a brilliant performance and kind of captured that essence. I think I just kind of wanted everyone to feel like disgusted at like the labor imbalance that is so often invisible in relationships.
Yeah, sold it. It was good. It's tense and yet so anthemic. I think that's how people are responding, because these are sing-along songs, but also like, right? You're getting to see people sing along to these songs a lot on your tour now, selling out everything, also going back abroad, right, later this year. What have you found to be the case when it comes to performing these songs that they're so stuck in consciousness now? How do you relate to the fans in person after building such a following on social? I
think it's just a matter of wanting to hear the things that people think are important to tell me when I meet people after shows, or I get told such amazing stories of the way that they feel like Labour has empowered them, and I don't know what to say to that. It's a good thing, because there's nothing that I need to say or needs to be said. It's that's about their empowerment and their confidence and what they have drawn from the song. It's immensely important, and I am humbled every time by it.
What can you tell us about recording Cacophony now that we're finally going to get to hear these all in order in the next couple months? Tell me about the experience making the record. It
was so much fun. We already had like half of the, I'd already had most of the songs written by the time we decided that we wanted to do an album, but not all of them had been produced and made. So there was a lot of kind of looking at what we had, and then a degree of filling out, okay, what is this body of work going to be? How is this story going to be told? And noticing that the themes that ran through it was a really rewarding process. I recorded like a great deal of it in LA with Justin Glasgow, and there are other songs by other incredible producers on the album as well. Tim Brown and Roy Kerr, who are a producer duo and great friends of mine. There's 2 songs by them. Also, one of the songs I produced myself. I think it's the second song on the album, and I kind of did that as like as a homage back to the production style that I used when like The Fruits, which was my first track that ever kind of had any traction, when that had a moment and kind of like took my music out of the shadows a little bit. So it's an album that like both in its sonics and in its narrative like really kind of tell a story about the past couple years, both in my life and kind of by extension my career, I suppose. It's very exciting.
Okay, so thinking about the last 2 years, and I feel like you're vulnerable with your songs, so I imagine you won't balk at me asking you this. My mind now talks about, ask rhetorically, what have I done wrong? Mm-hmm. Can you think of something as your career is like, that you've done wrong, and then something you're like very solid on that you're doing right?
I think towards the start of my career, which I still am, I suppose, but right in its fledgling state, there it's such a like state of overwhelm that you're in, especially when something like Labour happens, which you can't prepare for and no one can be responsible for preparing you for. But because of the fact it was so overwhelming, I do think I kind of retreated a little bit and maybe gave other people too much control over what I thought and how I should do things. And, those are consequences that like were a good thing because I learnt from them, and I was very happy that it happened, towards the start of my career where I just sort of, realized I was like, okay, I need to take all the agency in my career now. I can't just trust that everyone else knows better. And also it's funny, you have a song like Labor have a massive moment, that doesn't then make you immune to thinking that you shouldn't take up space. I think I do think about that a lot. Like I am still, I'm a person with like a, anxiety, and I have issues a lot of the time with my self-esteem and things like that. And I think, then you have a song like Labor, but you can write in a completely different way to how and it's quite hypocritical, but sort of, I think everyone can be forgiven for doing that a little bit. But anyway, I think I've been taking a lot more agency and sort of, where I want my career to be going, where I want my life to be going, and the kind of music I want to be making.
You answered beautifully that it was both and, right? Like, I maybe let it slip for a second because I didn't know what I didn't know. And now you know. And you're resting control. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing these tunes with us. I can't wait to hear the whole thing. August 30th, Cacophony, Paris Paloma. Thank you
so much.